Hello, this is LifeLongU, and my name is Gary Keeker. This video tutorial, what we will be doing is going through some calculations on figuring out how your time is actually being spent. This is a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, and I have it open on my screen right now. And if you look down the bottom left, there is a tab here, and this is the spreadsheet. And when you first look at it and peruse through it, you may see that, boy, this is really a lot. I don't know that I want to do this. But in actuality, it's pretty easy. The calculations are all embedded in here already for your convenience, so you really don't have to do much with them. In fact, the cells have been locked, so you really can't mess anything up if that is a fear of yours. I can quickly go through and orientate you on what this spreadsheet is and what it consists of. There's three main tabs. This first tab here with the colors, all this here is basically all your input fields. And we'll get back to that. These are all totals, and if you click in them, you'll get an error message saying that the cell or chart that you're trying to change is protected, therefore read only. So you won't be able to mess up any formulas that way. Off to the right are two different summarization areas that look at time activity by life category for personal, which means time just for you, and then time for obligations where you're really working for others. You still may consider that to be yourself, but for our spreadsheet here, we break out time that you basically don't have any control over. You need to work there, and you may enjoy your job, but nonetheless, it's time that you're obligated there. So we pull those apart in this tutorial. And we also track mind, body, and soul time, and that'll make more sense as we work through the gathering of our different time. And at the bottom here are a couple graphs that will calculate. Again, we're just looking at the totals of the spreadsheets up above, and they break out by percentages. And then they also break out by mind, body, soul percentages. So you can kind of have an overview of how percentage-wise, if you had 168 hours in a week, which is 24 times 7, which is a full week, how much of that time is spent doing career, doing financial activities, doing spiritual activities, relationship time, leisure time, or philanthropy time. Likewise, we do the same thing here. What time is spent on your mind, what time is spent with your body, and what time is spent with your soul. And what that does is you think about your time in different types of categories this way, and it helps us determine where we want to help balance our life and how we can go about doing that, where we're weak, where we're strong, where we may be able to shave some time off, and so on. And like I said, they'll make more sense as we go through this tutorial. And again, all these fields automatically calculate and are done for you, so you don't have to do anything other than just print them out when you're done and look at what the results are. The fields and cells off to the left here, this area, as we input, they'll just fill in. The same thing with this next tab over here. All these cells here are broken out by our life categories, and these are career, financial, spiritual, relationships, leisure, philanthropy. The last category here is a total of all the time, and it's basically culminates all the subcategories, which we'll get into in a little bit, in under one. And this basically are all the totals that are up above. All the philanthropy, leisure, relationships, spiritual time, financial, and career time. All your time spent in those areas are all pulled down here and totaled on a graph too, so you can see really just how much commute drive time you actually spend in all activities. Budgeting, planning, reading, hobbies, TV, computer, anything like that, as we list them all out here. they all come and fall into the appropriate categories in these graphs. And again, you can print these out later. And the graphs actually, there's two different kinds of graphs. One actually shows percentages, and one actually shows total hours. So you can look at both of them. And they'll make more sense again after you put your time in. And the last tab here is a manual tab in case you want to use, you're not comfortable using Excel, although this is a long way around. You basically have to calculate everything by hand. And I did include the spreadsheet in here if anyone wanted to do that, but if you can get yourself to use Excel, this is much easier way to go. So we're going to start. And what I have is in the self-discovery workbook, this how your time is spent calculation is one of the challenges that you face in there to go through and calculate your time. So this spreadsheet is just basically created for you to actually automate that process to make it go much, much faster. And it is online and available on LifeLongU.com's website under its products area. So what we're going to do is I'm going to key in a bunch of different times here and to get data into our spreadsheet. And I'll go through the headers of our columns that we're breaking things out. We have two groupings here, personal time and obligation time. So we have to get used to thinking in times of that way. We're looking at personal time, and we break personal time out in mind time, anything doing to improve our mind, anything we're doing to improve our body, and anything we're doing to improve our soul. So it's just, and this does not have to be an exact science, and actually it's better if you don't spend too much time thinking and trying to categorize it on your first pass through. You can refine it at any point in the future. Our obligated time are times where we have to do something, like work, pay bills, do housework, shopping, caring for family, time with a spouse, although that's maybe a leisure time activity, but even you can mark it in leisure when you get to leisure. Leisure area is right here. So don't be confused by that type of quantification. Each one of these areas are personal and obligations, mind, body, soul, but then we also have career, financial, spiritual, relationships, leisure, and philanthropy, because we want to break out our time and see how much time we're in each life category as well. And then we're also breaking it out Monday to Friday activities, then Saturday, and then Sunday time. So you can look at basically a 5-day work week and then on the weekend. So if we think of all those different categories and subcategories, we break our time out that way, it will total and give us some very good useful information out the back end when we look at that. And those numbers are utilized in the self-discovery as we move through that and charting your course to figuring out how to accomplish your goals. We need to really understand, or rather you need to understand, and your coach to understand where your time is being spent and ways to actually help you figure out better ways to manage your time. And this gets to the root of that really, really quickly. Anybody that's helping you coach can look at this outputted report and they can see where you're at. And as well, you can too, and you can understand exactly how you got there by going through this little exercise. So we're going to start commuting and drive time to work, Monday to Friday. We're going to put an hour in there. So that hour to and from work, ballpark the time, and we're going to keep right on moving through. So bear with me, we're going to go through this fairly quickly. So Monday, Saturday, and Sunday, there's no working, so we have 1 hour. So that automatically over here, it looks at the week total and automatically calculated that as 5 hours for the whole week. And if you look over even further, that 5 hours has actually put it in career. So there's 5 hours in career. For the year, it totaled up 260 hours of commute time going to and from work. So you can already see that 260 hours is spent out of your lifetime in a year is spent just driving to and from your work using that scenario. As you can see further, since I just put that one number in, it's already looking at career as 100% of all your time, since we only have one entry in our spreadsheet so far. And if you go back to over here, it's already putting in commute and drive time as 1 hour, 260 hours for a year. It's already graphed it, 260 hours here under the hours, and that's 100% of our time. It's already been for our total. You can see all these other graphs are all empty except for the top one for career should have the 5 hours in it, which it does. So you can see that that's how the spreadsheet just pulls the data over and away you go. And that will work that way all the way through the spreadsheet. So you can see how fast we can get to the analysis side, which is really what you're interested in, not all these details. But we'll spend a little time in the details and we'll get the output that we want. For career, assuming we're not doing any college or any education or anything else, we're going to leave that. There's only improving our mind, commuting and drive time, because what we're doing is we're doing nothing but listening to the radio, and what I advise is listening to audiobooks. So I put that as career development time for myself. You may end up putting it in some other fashion where don't view it as any educational activity for your career, any improvement. And if you do that, there's an area here you can put it in, and or radio time. So you can go ahead and if you put the 1 hour there, the same thing will happen. If we get rid of this, it still calculates over no matter where you're at, and you still have the 260 and it's still calculating on a career, only the spreadsheet knows where to put it in your graphing. So no matter what you're putting in here, as long as you put it under the right field in here of what you want it to be, the spreadsheet will dump it into wherever you want it. So for that, I'm just going to go back to where we were at here. And we're going to call it commute and drive time and assume we're listening to audiobooks. So as far as that's concerned, the career section for me up on top, from that perspective is done. But we also have our obligated time. Now that we are at our work, and work is career, and say we assume we work 8 hours a day, so I'm going to put 8 hours in there. And again, that's, as you can see over here, it just jumped the 8 hours over into the career section, and it totaled up here, total time activity went to 9 hours now. So the 8 and the 9 got added together. And let's assume that we actually work on our career 2 hours on Saturday too. So now we're done with Monday to Friday. We have a total vested time of 9 hours, which includes 8 hours of work time and an hour driving back and forth from work. Saturday we are working 2 hours, and Sunday we have no work going on. So that basically for career at this point is complete as far as our scenario. Financial time, how much time do you spend working on your financial, whether it's education, whether it's reading or brushing up or paying bills or whatever it is you do. Let's just jump down here since I mentioned paying bills and say that we spend an hour on Saturday paying bills. Now you can see that the 1 hour off to your right here just went up and added 1 hour under financial. What else do we have going on? Let's say that we're doing, on Saturday we also do some budget and planning, so let's put a half an hour in there for budget and planning. And maybe we're doing some education because we're reading some papers or some books or something on there. Let's add another half an hour in there. So we have a total of 1 hour of furthering our mind a little bit more on financial stuff on Saturday. And we pay bills for obligated time on, I'll get this so that set's a little bit smaller so you can see the totals, to 2 hours. So that's our total financial time spent on Saturday. On Sunday we have no financial activity happening, and there's no financial activity that happens on the weekday unless you choose to add something on the weekday. Maybe you pay your bills on Wednesday evening for whatever reason, and so there you would move that time over in this category here and put your hour in or whatever amount of time it takes you to do that. Or maybe you're spending some time educating yourself on financial matters, and And that would go under reading financial or reading career or spiritual if you're reading the Bible or other spiritual material on relationships or whatever it is. So there's different places. I'm trying to mention them so you can see what's going on and how the spreadsheet actually functions. And once you work through it, you'll see that it works pretty well for what you want to carve this, your time allotment of 24 hours a day up. Okay, now on Saturday, we're into the spiritual category right here. And spiritual means different things to different people. For me, I go to church and I'm putting in a quarter of an hour of time. I know that's not much. I do some reading, so I'm putting in an hour. We also do some watching of some TV, a TV program. So that adds up of, for the mind, at 2.25 hours so far. I do go to church, and the time spent in church is approximately 2 hours. There's some reflection and meditation time that's also spent there. And I do read meditations and that type of activity, so I'm going to add a half an hour out from Monday to Friday. Some prayer time is also in there. And I know some of these get more precise, but I want to track the amount of time spiritually that I'm spending because that is a smaller category, unfortunately, for me. It's easy to get into the more minute details. Career and working your day and some of the other activities you're going to leisure when you get to that. How much time do you actually spend in leisurely activities? And that would include working out, any reading, having fun, socializing, all that goes under leisure. So that's a very large category as to how we spend our time. So we get down to approximately their total time. There's no obligated time for a spiritual. It's all personal time. So we get down to approximately 6 hours. And if you look over here in spiritual time, we would have got, there's the 6 hours that I just calculated in there. So what we're going to keep on doing here is moving through our spreadsheet. And relationships, commute and drive time, since we do ride together at some points during the time in the car, there is a little bit of relationship time there. So I know that's not much, but I want to track that. There's some education time that I do on reading up on, not reading up on, but studying and up on relationships that I do. Caring for family is going down to obligation time. I'm putting an hour in every day, Monday to Friday, an hour in on Saturday, and 2 hours in on Sunday. And time with spouse, 2 hours. And spouse may be significant other, and sometimes you may spend all day with your spouse or your significant other, but you want to look at how much time is obligated and how much time is personal time, and that may be driven by what she feels or he feels that type of time is. It's doing something that you have to do together, maybe obligated time, or if it's actually social time where you're enjoying each other's company along with friends of some sort, that would actually be more of a leisure time. So, and again, you're making your own rule here on how this works, and when you're done and look at it, then you can analyze back in and see if you want to make some adjustments. So again, don't get tied down too deep in the details. We're just putting in time right now. I'm going to jump into leisure time. So right now we have, how many hours are we looking at? Leisure time, TV and computer. There's a big one. I'm putting hours, 1.75 hours every day watching computer or working on computer and watching television. There's a time for some hobbies, and there's some time for education. I have to educate myself on travel, so that's just something I want to keep doing. Um, Sleeping time. Let's say we're sleeping 7 hours a day. Hygiene and dress. Every day is a half an hour. Eating and food prep. We do have to eat, and food prep can also be dubbed over other time too. I mean, you can multitask and do more than one thing at a time. So if you're like if you're like me and do other things while you're making your meal, you can mark it that way. Exercise an hour every week, a little longer on Saturdays, hour on Sundays. We're still cooking a little longer here. And what I like to do, we don't have this broken out into career, financial, and everything, but all the meals and eating food prep is under leisure time because cooking is a leisurely activity. Sunday, let's do a little bit longer meal. We're sleeping a little bit longer here, so look, you can see that the leisure time activities that we have here for body, on the we're sleeping, we have hygiene and dress, eating and food, we're exercising, and anything else that you're coming up with. There's a lot of body activities that are leisurely that are happening here on our spreadsheet under leisure. A lot of resting, and you can put reflection and meditation because that actually is resting too. But again, if you're reading material that has a spiritual focus, I think you'd rather try to track that under your spiritual side and keep that pulled out of leisure. Leisure, to me, would be reading. I like science fiction, so science fiction would be over there. Or I also like business books. I read of those, and that would be over there. Although, again, business could be under career too, up here on top. So, I mean, anything if you're, it depends on what you're doing and how you want to quantify these. And again, you can go ahead and as you go through it the first time, just move through it quickly. And what we're doing is we're looking at, I don't know if you've been watching the hours accumulate over here. On Monday to Friday, when you're done, all this time will total 24 hours. And for the week, will be 168 hours. That's how many hours we're working with. And if it doesn't equal that, we'll have to go back and adjust our time to actually make that balance out that way. So right now, that's our personal time. Now there's some leisure time activities that we're dealing with via obligation. Some housework that needs to be done a little bit every day, unfortunately. There's some shopping that needs to be done every day, or at least on average we're picking up something. And there's some caring for some family members that happens on a daily basis. And actually the caring for family members happens every day, so a little bit more on Sundays. Again, there's some time with the spouse. Shopping here on Saturdays a little heavier, and a little bit more housework on this day. Okay. Now we are stopping with our leisure time activity, and we're looking at philanthropy. And there's some volunteering time. Really, that's on Saturday for an hour, and on Sunday for an hour. And that's all the philanthropy time that I've allocated under my spreadsheet. And now you can see that our total time has calculated, and these totals all extend across here to the column to the week total. And you can see that as you add up all the way down, it comes up to 168 hours for the week, which 168 divided by 24 hours a day is 7 days. So that balanced out. And to be honest with you, these times are right out of the self-discovery workbook and are pulled right over into here. So that's how can pull them up so fast. It does take me a little bit longer to analyze the time in my own mind when I first created the spreadsheet for myself. But this is just one that I'm putting in for the sake of argument and for the sake of this tutorial. So you can see that all the time pulled over now. There's 24 hours Monday to Friday, 24 hours for Saturday, 24 hours on Sunday, and 168 for the week, and 8,736 for the year. So that's all of our time's been allocated. You can see that we have, for career, we're spending 2,444 hours on our career. Leisure time is 4,940 hours, or 56% of the total time. 27% of our time is spent on our career. Only 1% is spent on financial and philanthropy. Now, financial is if you have money challenges and concerns, or if you don't and you're doing well with your money, either way, 1% of your time spent on your money is just not a lot of time, is it? If you have money, want to keep it, you would think that we should be spending more time in that area and educating ourselves more rather than less. The same thing with our happiness. Happiness comes from giving, and it's a feeling, it's an emotion. So spending more time in philanthropic activities or endeavors to help give back to other people. Again, we're not spending much time there according to this example, and it would appear like we're really looking to have a lot of fun, is what it looks like. And maybe that is the case. Who am I to judge? But that's how that shakes out for the time. And as far as personal time and obligation time, we have our personal time here and our obligation times here. We're still looking at our life categories, so you can see that still under personal time, I mean, there's a heavy leisure. It's almost 80% of our personal time is spent on leisure. Career personal time is only 5 hours. Now let's jump down to obligations. 61% of our time spent in obligations is basically working on our career. And relationship time is 14%. If you look at our total time up on top, it's only half that. And here leisure time under obligated time drops down to 22%. And again, there's no spiritual obligated time, which some volunteer work at a spiritual church or something in that nature may be a goal you want to create in the future. But you can see that places where you have no hours being spent or very few hours being spent and you want to increase certain things because of your goals, when you get to your goals and you start focusing on what you want, you can come back here and see how much time you actually spend in there, and you will be able to figure out how to actually move some time out of what area of activity into a new area of activity to actually help you accomplish your goals. So you can see how this starts to drive you to changing your lifestyle to actually accomplish the things that you actually want to do. And here, this might be interesting. You get to the mind, body, soul. How much time are you working on your mind, your body, and your soul? If you add up those three, you look down here, it's 5,161 total hours for mind, body, and soul. And that is your personal time hours, which is your total is 5,161. And working on mind, body, and soul, there may be some activities that you do that under your obligated time that also fall in here. But this is personal time is time that you have more control over. So just keep that in mind. Now let's jump back or jump over to our spreadsheet here and see what that looks like. It's going to be heavily weighted in certain areas for sure, because each one of these pulls over all the subcategories for everything. And some areas of our life category, there's only a couple things that we're doing under that life category. Like for career, we're working heavy into career. So 89% of our time, or 2,184 hours, are spent on work each year. And let's just jump back to the other spreadsheet quick and see if that 2184 hours is pulled over correctly. So 2184 is the work hours. There's a 2184 right there. And the other hours are 260. And that's commute and drive time. You can see that's 260. So we have 1 hour and 5 hours this week to 60. Okay, let's summarize what we've done here. Like I mentioned, our tabs here, we have 3 tabs. The first one is our data input tab, really, and it really consists of this area that we're working in right up here. Just that area, and that's all. That's the only place where we are putting any time in. We have personal time, we have obligation time. Personal time is time that you have more control over. Obligation time is time where you have less, you do have your control over the time, but you need to spend it in an area. I know there may be a fine difference, but we want to break it out in those 2 areas. Our personal time is broken out into a further subcategory of mind, body, and soul, and still further under different activities that could benefit your mind, could benefit your body, could benefit your soul. So we're trying to keep the groupings and subcategories and subgroupings. And it gets a little complicated, but it's not really that too bad. We have 6 life categories, which the whole life fulfillment program resides around: your career, financial, spiritual, relationships, leisure, and philanthropy. In order to live a balanced life, we want to spend time in each one of those. And this is a perfect analysis tool and study of your time to see how you're doing with spending time in these categories. So first we have career, personal, and obligated time. And then we have financial time totals, and so on, spiritual time, and relationship, leisure, and philanthropy time. All the totals are being subtotaled here under column Y, and that is basically via the week, and then it's annualized for the whole year, and then it also creates a percentage. And all of this data moves into our different graphs, and over here, so we're looking at total time activity by life category, personal time total activity by life category, obligation total time by life category. And then what this does is it just graphs, these numbers are rounded off of the numbers that are right up here. So this is brought down, but I wanted to look at the graph so you could visually see how much time you're actually spending in an area. You can see leisure time, like we mentioned earlier, is pretty heavy, with financial and philanthropy time. So those are areas that we may want to improve based on this analysis. And over here, mind, body, and soul, again by life category for each. And there it's brought down that we spend 22% of our time dealing with mind activities, then 69% of body activities, and 9% on soul activities. And again, if you're a very spiritual person, spending 9%, I guess from a financial perspective, you may consider 10% being tithing. Maybe that works for the time too, that you're tithing 10% of your time is soul activities. I don't know. Um, but this, again, is only representative of the time that you're spending up here under personal time. This total 5,161 hours is a combination of your total mind, total body, and total soul. This is right down here, 5,161 hours. That does not account for this 3,500 hours that you're spending over here, which you can see there's no spiritual time. That you're really basically this obligated time. You're doing something that you have to do, and we really want to manage that time as well, but we really want to make sure that we're managing our flexible time or our personal time, and we're going to get more bang for our buck if we figure out in our personal time first, but then take a look also later at our obligations time as we make more refinements and improve our life. And then we're jumping back over to our careers and subcategories, and these you can go through on your own. They're pretty self-explanatory, and some of them are not very strong. The leisure one probably will be the spiritual does show you are spending 33% of your time in reflection and meditation, or this person is. There's some reading, there's some TV going on, watching different shows, And you can see the number of hours too, although that's not a very high one. Remember, that's only 1% of your time, 1.19%. This is time spent on relationships. So you're only looking at 400, 500, 600, about 650 some hours in relationships out of your given 8,000 some hours in a year. That's not a lot of time building relationships. And again, there you may fine tune that and view it a little bit differently too. And sometimes you can do things with your significant other or the person you're trying to build your relationship with and share time doing fun, leisurely activities, but you're still spending time together. So you might consider splitting that time between two different subcategories. And this is a leisure time, and you can see there's lots of different things going on here, but at least sleep's going to be a big one, and there's unfortunately no way to get around sleeping. And again, there's not much in philanthropy, so there's one category, and that's it. Doing some volunteer work. There's some room for improvement, to say the least. And then when you look at your total, you can see exactly what activities you're going by percent and what activities you're doing by hour. And you can see how that works out. And again, don't forget these other classifications that are set up here to jump to them. There's two under each one of the categories here that you can customize and name, and they'll flow through too. So if you want to break it out even a little further than the default categories I've come up with, you can certainly do that. If there's something that you want to track, they're set up to do that so that you can do a little bit more customization. But again, don't go too deep in the details. Stay up on top and don't drown in, because this is there's a lot of it, and you can just bury yourself in the details and it's going to be insignificant at the detail level. We want to capture the lack of spending any time in something that you want to, and then we want to look at where you're spending a lot of time in that you may not want to. The peaks and the valley, the tops and the bottoms are what you want, not the middle so much. So if that makes sense. That's it for how you spend your time. And again, if you have any questions, you can email coach@lifelongu.com. My name is Gary Keeker, and I represent lifelongu.com. Thank you for your time.